Hold up, you know that voice anywhere. But behind the platinum hits and flawless beauty, there's a story TLC never sang about. Rosanda Chilli Thomas, the unstoppable powerhouse who helped turn TLC into one of the most iconic girl groups of all time. She's the reason the world fell in love with Waterfalls, and why No Scrubs became an anthem that still shakes men's egos today. But her journey wasn't just about chart-topping success. Behind the scenes, Chilli was caught in secret romances, brutal heartbreaks, and battles with the very industry that made her famous. Did you know she and producer Dallas Austin were hiding a relationship during TLC's early days? They had to keep it under wraps because Pebbles, the group's fiery manager, had one rule: no dating producers. When Pebbles eventually found out Chilli was pregnant, she reportedly kicked her out of the group. From backup dancer to Grammy-winning legend, Chilli's life has been anything but boring. Born Rosanda Thomas on February 27, 1971 in Columbus, Georgia, she came from a strikingly unique heritage. Her father, Abdul Ali, of Bangladeshi and Arab descent. Her mother, Ava Thomas, African-American and Native American. But despite those rich cultural roots, Chilli's upbringing was shaped solely by her mom, Ava, who raised her alone. And trust me, this is only the beginning. Chilli's childhood wasn't just about growing up in Columbus, Georgia. It was about resilience, love, and longing. Raised by her mom and her great-grandmother, affectionately called Big Mama, Chilli grew up in a house full of wisdom and warmth. She was the best, full of wisdom, so sweet, so loving. We had our own little bond, Chilli once recalled. But there was still a hole in her life, a father she had never met. That missing piece didn't fall into place until 1996, when the world got a front row seat to one of the most emotional moments of her life. At 25 years old, Chilli met her father for the very first time, on national television no less, during an episode of The Sally Jessy Raphael Show. Chilli admitted she didn't know what to feel at first. I didn't know if I should get excited or if he was going to call back and say, "No, it's the wrong one again," she said. But when she finally laid eyes on him, it was like puzzle pieces snapping into place. She discovered not only a father, but also a sister and two brothers, one of whom even shared her gift for music. "It was just the greatest time," Chilli said, laughing about how her dad immediately tried to impress her with his cooking. "He made me taste his yams, and I don't even like yams." After a lifetime of questions, wondering why she acted the way she did, why something always felt missing, meeting her father gave her a sense of wholeness. "When I met all of them, it just all came together, and I finally felt complete," she admitted. But while she was patching together her personal story, Chilli was already carving out her place in music. Before she was stealing the spotlight with TLC, she was shaking it as a backup dancer for Damien Dame. And then, in 1991, fate knocked on her door when she was tapped to join TLC, replacing founding member Crystal Jones. That decision would change not just her life, but the entire sound of 90s R&B. The name Chilli wasn't just a nickname. It was a genius move from Lisa Left Eye Lopes herself. Lisa wanted to keep the group's fiery name intact after Chilli replaced Crystal Jones, and with that, TLC's iconic lineup was born. From there, it was history. TLC sold over 65 million records worldwide, becoming the ultimate American girl group. They racked up 4 Grammys, broke records, and defined an entire era of R&B and pop culture. As Chilli once joked in her Grammy speech, "We bumped into God also, and he said, 'Don't forget to thank me when you get up there.'" But while TLC was dominating the charts, Chilli's love life was turning into its own soap opera. In TLC's early days, she secretly began dating producer Dallas Austin. Why the secrecy? Because Pebbles, TLC's controversial manager, had one strict rule: no dating producers. The relationship had to stay hidden, until it didn't. When Pebbles found out Chilli was pregnant, the fallout was brutal. Pebbles reportedly kicked her out of the group, and the stress eventually led to a heartbreaking miscarriage. It was a devastating moment, but Chilli fought tooth and nail to reclaim her spot in TLC, proving she was born to be a superstar. Fast forward a few years, and sparks flew between her and Dallas once again. This time, the romance led to the birth of her son Tron Austin in 1997. Even though their relationship didn't last, Chilli and Dallas nailed the co-parenting game. And today, Tron is following in his parents' footsteps, carving out a music career of his own. Through it all, Chilli has never wavered in putting motherhood first. No matter how wild the fame, no matter how messy the headlines, she's always made it clear: Being a hands-on supportive mom is her #1 priority. Total boss vibes. For Chilli, motherhood has always been the ultimate role. He didn't ask to be here. It was a blessing from the Lord that I got to be his mom, she said about her son Tron. She proudly admitted she could count on one hand the times she didn't personally take him to school or pick him up. That kind of devotion became her fuel, keeping her grounded no matter how wild fame got. What makes her proudest? Not the fame, not the talent, but his character. How humble he is. That is everything to me. No one is above anyone except God, Chilli explained. She reminded him that when you're on top, people might tolerate your attitude, but when the hits stop, it's your kindness that keeps doors open. Those values shaped Tron into the man he's becoming, and showed the world that Chilli's crown jewel has always been her son. But while her heart as a mom never wavered, her romantic life, that was another story, and the headlines were relentless. Fast forward to 2001, and Chilli found herself swept up in a swoon-worthy romance with none other than R&B superstar Usher. At the time, he was already one of the biggest names in music, and together, they were the picture-perfect power couple, young, gorgeous, and unstoppable. The chemistry was undeniable, and fans couldn't get enough of their red carpet appearances and loved-up moments. But behind the glamour, that love story was about to get messy. The sparks between them weren't just rumor. They were right there on screen. Chilli starred in Usher's steamy music videos for hits like You Remind Me and You Got It Bad, and the chemistry was undeniable. Suddenly, everyone was talking about R&B's hottest couple, Usher and Chilli, the picture-perfect match. But by 2003, the fairy tale had cracked. Chilli admitted later that the timing was off. I had baggage going in. You think you're over a person, but not over everything you allowed yourself to go through, she confessed. Despite their strong connection, old wounds and personality clashes pushed them apart. And here's where it gets messy. Usher reportedly popped the question, and Chilli said no. I always knew we weren't ready for that, she revealed. For her, marriage was sacred, something you only do once. She didn't want to force it just for the fairy tale ending. Respectful? Yes. Heartbreaking? Absolutely. But if that wasn't juicy enough, Usher went on to drop his 2004 smash album Confessions, and suddenly the world was side-eyeing Chilli. The cheating-themed lyrics had everyone assuming the songs were about their relationship, and the drama exploded. Chilli, ever the class act, didn't sling mud back. She called Usher her first real love and admitted she wished they'd met at a different time. If we had met later, this would be a totally different story, she reflected. Still, the heartbreak was undeniable, and the world was left wondering, did Usher's biggest album really double as his breakup diary with Chilli? But hold up, let's rewind to one of the darkest chapters in Chilli's journey. And honestly, one of the wildest scandals in music history. It was 1995. TLC had just dropped Crazy Sexy Cool, which went on to sell over 10 million copies in the US alone. They were the hottest girl group on the planet. 4 Grammys, millions of fans, back-to-back hits that defined a generation. And then they dropped the bombshell. They were broke. Yes, broke. Flat out bankrupt. The world was stunned when the trio stood on stage and revealed the ugly truth. We're the biggest selling female group ever, and we are as broke can be. How does that even happen? Simple. Contracts, points, and greed. Here's the math. Out of 100 points on an album, TLC had just 7. That meant every time an album sold, they got a measly 56 cents split 3 ways. Now multiply that by millions of records sold, and instead of mansion money, they were barely scraping by. The finger quickly pointed at their manager, Perry Pebbles Reed. Pebbles, who had helped shape their image and lock down their lay-face deal, was accused of saddling them with one of the worst contracts in industry history. TLC claimed Pebbles pocketed the lion's share while they shouldered the fame without the fortune. And Pebbles? She didn't exactly deny it. Instead, she defended the contract, saying business was business, which only poured more gas on the fire. The result? In July 1995, TLC filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, shocking the music world. Imagine selling millions of records, topping the Billboard charts, winning Grammys, and then having to explain to the world that you couldn't even pay your bills. This moment became a defining symbol of just how brutal and exploitative the music industry could be. And for Chilli, it was more than just numbers. It was betrayal. Betrayal by people they trusted, betrayal by the system that chewed up artists and spit them out. Of course, TLC eventually fought their way back, renegotiating contracts and reclaiming their throne. But the scars of that bankruptcy, they never really faded. To this day, Pebbles and the group still throw shade back and forth about who was really at fault. When TLC said they weren't playing about their money, they meant it. After dropping the bankruptcy bombshell, the ladies didn't just sit around waiting for lawyers and accountants to sort it out. Nope, they went full Atlanta on the music industry. Picture this. Clive Davis, the legendary head of Arista Records, sitting in a polished Manhattan office, mid-conversation with none other than Puff Daddy himself. Deals being made, millions being discussed. And suddenly, the door swings open. In walks TLC, not alone either. They rolled deep, bringing a squad of their girls straight from the projects in Atlanta. No stylists, no PR reps, no polished corporate smiles. Just raw energy and a clear message. Pay up. According to insiders, it was Left Eye, Chilli, and T-Boz leading the charge. They didn't ask politely. They didn't wait for an invite. They hung up Clive's phone mid-call and shut the door. The room froze. And then came the demand. Fix the money situation, now. Word on the street is that it got so intense, there might have even been a weapon flashed. Nothing confirmed, but let's just say the tension was sky high. What is confirmed? They didn't leave empty-handed. The girls reportedly stripped plaques off the walls, platinum records, awards, you name it, and hauled them straight down to a truck waiting outside. Symbolic or not, the message was loud and clear. TLC wasn't going to be played like some rookie act. T-Boz later admitted the whole thing was a high-stakes showdown. They put Clive Davis on notice right there in front of Puff that they weren't afraid to risk it all to get what they deserved. This moment became legend in music circles. Proof that TLC weren't just chart-topping pop stars. They were fighters who weren't afraid to go head-to-head with the most powerful men in music. "We did not pull any guns on Clive," Chilli later insisted, trying to clear up the wildest parts of that showdown. "We did have a moment," she admitted, "but so much happened over those years. It's hard to fit every detail into 2.5 hours. Still, the point was clear. TLC wasn't playing about their money. They reminded the world that the album generated roughly $75 million, yet the group saw almost none of it. They wanted answers. Where was the cash? According to T-Boz, the trail led back to Arista, so they went straight to the top. Rumors swirled about a gun being involved. Chilli pushed back. Someone may have had one outside somewhere, but nobody pulled it out on nobody. What did happen, she said, was bold and direct. They reportedly took plaques off the walls and hauled them out, demanding to be heard. It was a high-stakes confrontation that, by all accounts, got the point across. And it worked, at least enough to get some immediate results. The drama was squashed, Chilli said. Nobody went to jail. They eventually received some money, still recoupable. And the showdown ended with Clive Davis giving them a hug and a kiss. The spectacle became legend, proof that TLC would fight tooth and nail for what they deserved. But Chilli's story isn't only battle scars and industry warfare. In 2012, she launched Chilli's Crew, a nonprofit in Atlanta dedicated to empowering young girls through self-esteem and career workshops. A reminder she's using her platform to uplift the next generation. Still, controversy never left her shadow. In 2013, former manager Perry Pebbles Reed dropped an explosive claim, accusing Chilli of an affair with Pebbles' husband while they were married. The accusation sent shockwaves. Pebbles' clip, accusation, she slept with him. Chilli's response, or family defense clip, do I believe that Chilli slept with him? I didn't want to believe it. I loved my husband fiercely. I have reasons to say absolutely, but I can't tell you here. I've held it for 20 years. G-Code Pebbles said she'd seen things. She wouldn't reveal details publicly, saying she'd held it for 20 years. The claim reopened old wounds and added another layer to the TLC saga, one that's still whispered about whenever the group's history comes up. Now everybody knew Pebbles wasn't bluffing when she said she had a G-code. She claimed she was ready to take secrets to the grave, but once she went public, the whispers turned into a full-on scandal. Pebbles doubled down, insisting the rumors about Chilli and L.A. Reid weren't invented by her daughter, saying, "That's been out there for years. I just chose not to believe it because I didn't want to. But I will not stand to continue being disrespected." Scandalous doesn't even begin to cover it. The allegations sent shockwaves across the media. Suddenly, Pebbles was painting a picture of paranoia, convinced that her husband might have been getting too close to the girls she managed. The lines between business, personal, and professional blurred into one toxic mess. She didn't want the girls around her husband, yet he was the label head and she was their manager. It was a recipe for drama that should have buried the group if it had been anyone other than TLC. But Chilli wasn't about to let the rumors destroy her. She shut everything down, denying the claims and standing firm on her loyalty to both the group and her friendships. In fact, TLC released an official statement blasting Pebbles' allegations, saying no member of TLC ever slept with or had sexual contact with L.A. Reid, as Perry falsely accused. Perry Reid was the only person who ever suggested that Chilli leave TLC. Neither Lisa nor I ever wanted or suggested that. That put an official stamp on what fans already suspected. Pebbles' accusations were about control, not truth. And just when TLC thought they'd weathered one storm, tragedy struck. On April 25, 2002, the world lost Lisa Left Eye Lopes in a devastating car accident in Honduras. She was just 30 years old. The sudden loss didn't just break hearts. It shook the entire R&B world to its core. Chilli remembered the grief vividly. I couldn't listen to the radio for a long time because I didn't want to hear reports about her. We didn't go to the mall. I didn't want people coming up to say, "I'm so sorry." I know they meant well, but when you're in pain, you just don't want to hear it. It took her years to even be able to speak about Left Eye in the past tense. Losing Lisa wasn't just losing a friend. It was losing a sister and a piece of TLC's very identity. Chilli later reflected, "When you're young like that, you think you're invincible. You just assume you'll live to be 90. But tomorrow, not even the rest of today, is promised." Lisa's death marked the end of an era and left an irreplaceable void, not just in TLC's dynamic, but in music history forever.